Story time about how my boyfriend was cheating on me with my stepsister. So a little background information, my mom remarried whenever I was in 8th grade, and my stepdad had 2 daughters. One which was my age and we got along really well. Well, before my sisters and I went back to school, my mom wanted to go on a camping trip with everyone. And my boyfriend was coming because he was really close with my family. So while my stepsister and I are packing up, she starts acting really weird. And we're gonna call my boyfriend Kevin. She was like, "Oh, is Kevin still coming with us?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then she goes, "Oh, are you and Kevin still together?" And I'm like, "We were never broken up. Like, the fuck?" Like I said, she was just being super fucking weird. But anyways, we all get in the car, we drive up there, and her and Kevin start being super weird around each other. Like, they were being too touchy. Anytime that I wanted to go do something with Kevin, she would say, "Oh, Kevin, you can come do this instead." Well, that night, Kevin and I are sleeping in our tent. At least I thought he was. And I wake up to some loud noises in the other tent, like for part 2. Part 2. So like I said, I heard a bunch of noises and talking in my stepsister's tent, and I wake up and my boyfriend isn't in the tent. So I'd be very quiet getting out of my tent, and I go over to hers and I just listen. And oh bitch, I should have just confronted them because I got my motherfucking feelings hurt. He was telling her how he didn't love me at all and how he only wanted to be with her, and how every time that they kissed each other and screwed each other, he felt such a connection between them. So not only was he cheating physically, but they had a connection. Wonderful. So I open her tent and I confront them. This was the most degrading thing I've ever went through in my life. And I said, "I heard you guys outside. And I'm just not the type of girl who's going to come at another girl because my man wants her. Because at that point, he's not my man." She goes, "Sit down, sweetie. We need to talk." Apparently, they're in love. So they started dating. They're still dating. And my parents allowed it. So I distanced myself from all of them.
Okay, so story time. So basically one time in 5th grade, my dad took me to get breakfast from Dunkin' Donuts. We went there before school like always. And as we were there, this strange man outside was staring at me and like making faces. Super creepy. We didn't know him or anything, so we walked inside and I was kind of freaked out. I told my dad that I was creeped out by him and he told me that nothing bad was gonna happen. Or so he thought. So we got our foods and we ate it, everything was fine, chill. After we were done, we got up to leave. The man was gone by now, so I felt better But then on the way to my school, I saw him walking on the sidewalk. Like, I figured he was going to his house or, like, somewhere else. When we got to my school, no one was outside. It was kind of weird. We went to open the door because my dad was a part of the PTA, so he came in with me. The door, for some reason, was locked. My music teacher out of nowhere ran out and brought us inside quickly. She told us that our whole school was on code red. Scary. And that a man was in our school, so we went inside and I went and hid in the music room. So part 2. So I went and hid in the music room. Dad was in the PTA room, which was close by. Literally started crying because I was so scared and they weren't telling us anything because we were too young. I guess they didn't want to scare us. That didn't work. Once the code red was over, about 30 minutes later, we went to class. I went to go find my dad and make sure he was okay and see if he knew anything. And he didn't. When I got in my classroom, we were all talking about it and my teacher said that the man just walked in and told them he was looking for one of his teachers from like 15 years back. Huh? They gave us a description of the man, and I realized it was the same man from Dunkin' Donuts. He just walked in my school. I was freaked out because I saw him at Dunkin' Donuts before school started, and I hoped I never saw him again. But a few weeks later, I saw him again multiple times at the same Dunkin' Donuts. He literally just stared at me all the time. So yeah, that's my little story.
This is why you should be careful doing private events as a stripper. I worked as a dancer for a few years. Most nights I worked at the club, but sometimes I did private events to make some extra money. I always took one of the bouncers that I knew from the club as my bodyguard and gave him a cut of what I made. I also only agreed to small events with a max of 10 to 15 people. One day a guy called me and booked me for a small birthday party for his brother. I explained the rules. No touching or grabbing, nothing sexual would be happening, and I only do what I'm comfortable with, to which he said he understood. I picked up my bouncer friend Tank and headed out to the event. When we arrived, we immediately noticed it was a huge party of at least 60 to 70 people, all of them being men. Tank asked me if I was still comfortable dancing for the party, and I agreed since we were already there. The group of men were really loud when I walked in, and they were extremely intoxicated, which was the first red flag. A few guys instantly started touching me, and Tank lightly pushed them away, telling them no touching and that the show hasn't started yet. While we were walking to the bathroom to change, another guy grabbed my butt. Tank pushed him off and started arguing with him. At this point, we should have left, and if I knew what was about to go down, we would have. Part 2 of why you should be careful doing private events as a stripper. I went to the bathroom to change into my dancing clothes and get ready. I could hear the guys asking where I was and getting hyped up. I went to the living room where I'd be performing and started dancing for the party. I got close to the birthday boy, and a few guys started aggressively grabbing me in places they shouldn't. I looked over and saw Tank leaning over the couch, warning the guys to stop touching me. A few drunk guys came up to Tank, put their hands on his chest, and pushed him back, telling him not to worry about me. I could tell things were about to go downhill fast. When the song finished, I told him I was going to change my outfit, grab Tank, and rush to the bathroom. Tank told me it was time to go and said we should sneak out through the open garage door. I quickly got dressed and we snuck into the garage. The guys instantly noticed we were leaving and pursued us. As we were running for the open garage door, it began to close on us. We were barely able to make it out. About 15 guys ran out after us, and Tank told me to run to the car. As I was running, I looked back and saw Tank pull out a gun and tell them not to come any closer as he was backing up. Luckily, he was able to get to the car with me and we sped off. After this incident, I stopped doing private events.
Story time about how I had to beat my grandma's ass. So, to give you a quick little backstory about my grandma was not innocent. She used to run the streets back in her day. So, I wasn't that close to my grandma, and neither was my mom, but my mom would still try to help her out from time to time and give her money. So, one day, my dumb grandma and her dumb old friends decided to go rob a bunch of people. Now, of course, they old asses get caught, and my mother has to bail them out. So, after my mom gets her from the jail, she's going on the whole time in the car like, you should have given me more money. So they're arguing and everything. And my mom's like, I don't understand why you're complaining. I always help you out when you ask me. My grandma feels like she shouldn't have to ask because she's her mother. So we're bringing my grandma back to her house. And as soon as we pull in the driveway, she gets out of the car and slams the door and goes inside. So as me and my mom are walking up the stairs to get inside, my grandma opens the door with a pistol. She's threatening to shoot her if she doesn't give her more money. Like for part 2. Story time about how I had to beat my own grandma's ass. So like I said in part 1, that old ass lady pulled out a pistol on my goddamn mama. Now, mind you, we are in the hood, so seeing pistols is not a big thing to most people in that neighborhood. Long story short, nobody called the cops, so we had to handle it ourselves. So I'm trying to calm my grandma down, and then she aims it at me. That's when my mom lost it. So she tries to grab the gun, and my grandma was not feeling that. So with my grandma's free hand, she swings on my mom, hitting her in the face. Now this was some ghetto ass shit. So my mom and grandma are on the ground fighting like some ghetto ass hood rats. And I didn't want to have to fight my grandma, but she started putting the gun to my mom's head. So I get on top of my grandma and I start whooping that ass. Because at this point, I was convinced she was actually going to shoot her. So I'm kicking her old ass in the back and dragging her off by her gray ass hair. As soon as I got them separated, I called the police, got her old ass locked up, and no, we did not bail her out this time.
One time at like 2 a.m., me and my friends were really craving Taco Bell, so we decided to sneak out so we can go to get some Taco Bell. Within the drive from my house to Taco Bell to back, we had managed to get pulled over 3 times. The person driving had tinted windows, so that was why we got pulled over each time. But each time we had managed to finesse our way out of a ticket. We all think everything's going so good until we pull back into my house and every single door is locked. I don't lock my doors, so there's no way for me to get inside. The only thing that is open is this petite ass window in my dad's bathroom. Look how small this shit is. Look how thick I am. I'm having trouble shimmying my big ass through the window. So obviously I face plant, make a bunch of noise. My dad wakes up. He looks at me. It's 4 a.m. He goes, Hannah, I swear to God, I look this dude right in the eye and I go, shh, you're sleeping. And he put his head back down, went back to sleep, and has never spoken to me about it since. And those tacos gave me diarrhea.
Short and mysterious story time. So me and my sister were annoyed and playing pranks on my mum and stepdad. We hid in cupboards and we changed locations making scary noises. Until eventually they found us and we admitted to it because we were just bored and we wanted to go to sleep. So like I would normally do, I went and slept with my sister because I wanted to stay in her room that night. We were just having general chit chat until we saw a man just standing there in the window. Legit, there was just a grey figure just standing there staring. We couldn't figure out his face. We didn't know if it was our parents playing pranks on us because we did it to them. But we was 11 and 12 years old. We was just so scared. So we were screaming for our parents. But of course, they didn't believe us. It didn't even feel like they blinked an eye. No one responded to us. So we just assumed that it was our stepdad doing this. Until we ran into their room screaming and crying. And they were legit just both there laying on the bed. They didn't believe us. And when my stepdad went into our room to go check it out, there was a piece of shattered glass just laying there on the bed. And still to this day, do our parents think that we placed it there.